Some of you may have enjoyed those tests as a Mercury astronaut, being spun around like crazy. Some of you may go to amusement parks to enjoy that experience. So we had the first planetary flyby, 19th of May, 1961. Do you think it's USA or USSR? Let's watch and find out. The name of the Soviet satellite that did the first flyby of any planet, which did happen to be Venus, so I must have done a bad cut and paste here. This is the first planetary flyby, and it does happen to be of Venus, and the spacecraft that flew by was called Venera 1. Continuing our look at the Mercury program, after the success and excitement of Alan Shepard, we move to our second Mercury mission, and this is with astronaut Grissom. And that's what you'll want to have for your notes. Grissom, the second Mercury astronaut. He also went for about 15 minutes. This was to show everyone, scientists included, the world at large, that what Alan Shepard managed to accomplish wasn't a fluke, something that could be repeated by the United States. This is the backup for the mission, and in fact the backup for both of the first two Mercury missions, John Glenn, helping and assisting Grissom into the capsule that he named Liberty Bell 7. An upgrade on the capsule was the window over here. For Shepard's, it was a smaller circular portal window. This one was larger. The end of his mission is quite memorable in the world of space exploration history. You can see off to the distance there, it looks like to be the aircraft carrier. And the mission was a little bit harrowing. As you can see, the helicopter has collected the craft, but you'll see there's this enormous amount of water that seems to be coming out from the capsule. And we'll show you a video of Grissom's experience and come back to this historic recovery.
It's a top speed of 5,280 miles an hour. Helicopters take off from the carrier Randolph to pick up astronaut and capsule as his parachute is sighted. The heartbreaking finale. As Captain Grissom prepares to leave the Mercury, the explosive bolts let go and blow off the escape hatch cover. While the helicopter tries vainly to keep the capsule afloat, Grissom is forced to swim clear of the whirling blades so that another craft can pick him up. He's underwater for 3 minutes in a tense, real-life drama. Captain Grissom is hauled to safety in a sling, again emphasizing the fact that concern for the astronaut is always of prime importance in our space program. While he is rescued, the other helicopter wrestles with the water-filled capsule, but the weight is too great. It has to be cut loose to rest on the bottom of the sea 3 miles down. A cheering crew on the Randolph welcomes the captain back to the carrier. The nation's second man into space was able to send back invaluable data that pushes forward our program despite the loss of the films and other information aboard the sunken capsule. A salute to Captain Grissom, our new space hero.
the first time I ever got to go to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, there was, unbeknownst to me, a special exhibit in honor of Gus Grissom and his Mercury 7 mission. And on display were his gloves. See his pair of Mercury gloves there, and inside you could just make out his marker of Grissom that he'd written there. Now, I was aware that the Liberty Bell 7 had been recovered. I just didn't know that it was on display and doing a national tour. And so imagine my surprise when I turned the corner and feasted my eyes upon the Liberty Bell 7, which was recovered in 1999. Now, don't think of this as it took NASA 38 years to find it. It's not really that NASA went out and did any type of mass recovery exploration for it. It really came about from treasure hunters who would, as their hobbies or some as business adventures, are those that try and salvage what they can from the depths of the ocean. And it just so happened that a dedicated treasure hunter looking for Liberty Bell 7 found success in July of '99. So these were just pictures that I took as went around. It was in a very dark facility, or in a room, to help with conservation and preservation of the capsule. You can see here that skirt we mentioned in the Shepherd clip, helping on impact into the ocean. Just flip the image there of the great capsule of Gus Grissom. The depth, why it was so difficult and took so long to find, was it was 3 miles deep. It was 4,000 feet farther down in the ocean than the Titanic was. They had this great interactive setup where you could run the robotics of this mock-up, scaled down obviously, of the underwater robot that was used to lift up the capsule from the depths of the ocean. And do you think I was successful in getting the capsule captured? Yeah, I have no idea, because my brother never moved away from it, and so I just went into further more in-depth exploration into the other Grissom items on display. For example, I stood here where the hatch is and thought what it would be like to have been Gus Grissom at the time when his Mercury 7 mission came to an end, where as I was just lying there, minding my own business, when pow, the hatch went. I looked up and saw nothing but blue sky and water starting to come in over the sill. At the time, there was an investigation into what could have been the likely cause of the hatch. Grissom was adamant that he had not pressed the button of blowing the hatch early. He was insistent that it may have been the impact of the capsule on the surface that had the hatch prematurely pop open, but he was adamant he did not violate any protocol. He didn't disobey any commands by pressing a mechanism to release the hatch early. NASA was not very convinced of this, and there was this bit of a stigma associated with Grissom that he was the cause of the loss of the capsule. So with the recovery of the capsule, certainly some interest into whether there was an accident or unintended early release of the capsule by Grissom, and the study of the capsule showed that he absolutely did not cause the hatch to release early. One of the mementos the Mercury 7 carried with him is a Mercury dime. This looks very different than the dime of today. We have President Franklin Delano Roosevelt featured on the dime currently, but it was often misconceived to have been the Roman god of Mercury, even though the original design was of the Greek mythology of liberty. Nonetheless, the Mercury astronauts took them aboard their flights and became, as you see, a tradition of carrying keepsakes onto future space flights, little mementos that astronauts could bring back and give to loved ones and family members that showed that they had thought about them on their mission and brought them back space-flown materials. So here's some of the Mercury dimes that were in the capsule when they were recovered from the ocean. Some of the survival tools that were in the capsule. How many days at sea could you survive with just those items? A couple of the medical supplies. Nice bar of soap. Keep yourself clean in the ocean. And then, of course, my favorite, I don't know why, but I just love looking at these spinning globes that were their mechanism for navigation and knowing where they were in a corresponding flat map. It's a mark of achievement that you are the second astronaut for the U.S. space program, NASA, and I think it's really an accomplishment when you are recognized by the Star Trek mythology and have a vehicle named after you. So this is USS Grissom of the Obert class. So a shout out to the German engineer in rocketry. All right, in this time period, we have the first crewed mission that lasts a full day, an entire day in space, 6th of August, 1961. What say you? US, USSR? German Titov turned out to be the second human in space. He spent an entire day in space, 8 hours of which he was able to sleep, and he was relieved to be able to sleep because he was quite sick in his space journey, as many astronauts are quite ill upon arriving to space in a very different, weightless environment. In fact, most all rookie astronauts are quite pukey when they arrive in space. And so much so that there is this medical condition of SAS, Space Adaptation Syndrome, where it takes a little while for your body to adjust to the sensation, kind of like standing on your head for a long period of time. You feel all this extra pressure in your head as the distribution of your fluids in your body is more equal. And that takes some time to get used to, and obviously, you're not going to see all of those images of the very first day, moments and hours of astronauts are in space. So that is a check for the USSR. This is certainly not helping to ease the frustrations of the general U.S. public.